when the princess decided to throw away all her royal assets and privileges just to run away from her beloved Bahrain with the US Marine, everyone was shocked and couldn't understand why she would take such a drastic step, and all efforts to bring her back home failed completely. Many years later, the mystery of that fairy tale-like event has finally been revealed, and people want to know where is the fugitive princess and her beloved Marine now. Before we get into it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell to be notified about our new stories. Sheikha Miriam bint Abdullah Al Khalifa was born in 1980 as a member of Bahrain's royal family. Miriam is one of 5 daughters of Sheikh Abdullah bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa, who is himself a distant cousin of Bahrain's current king, Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. She was raised with all the comfort of royalty, just like all her sisters and cousins. And her duty, thanks to the status she held, was never confusing. U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Jason Johnson, too, was a man with a clear-cut duty. He was one of the 9,000 U.S. personnel who were stationed in the Navy base in Bahrain for counter-terrorism duties. A 19-year-old Miriam and her entourage had gone to the local mall to shop. And at the same time, a 26-year-old Johnson was getting some things for himself from the same mall. It was at this point that the two met, and there was a spark. They decided to establish a means of communication that would enable them to remain in touch. With the help of a friend, they managed to exchange letters and build on this very special thing they felt for one another. This went on for a while, until one of the royal guards caught wind of the affair and reported it to the royal family. As you would expect, Miriam's father demanded an immediate end to the relationship. For obvious reasons, like the fact that she was just becoming an adult, she was royalty, and she had her duties. In addition, she was Muslim, while Johnson was a Christian Mormon. And to round it all up, he was a foreigner. But all these fell on the deaf ears of a teenager, bent on being with the love she just found. As Johnson's time drew closer to the end of his tour and returned to the US, the two started to plan how to leave the country undetected. Johnson used his connections to forge passports and other legal documents that would enable Miriam to leave with him. In November 1999, Miriam wore a disguise, including a New York Yankees baseball cap, and their plan was successful, at least until they landed in Chicago. Unknown to the couple, they were going to face some issues right from the bat. By the time they landed in Chicago, U.S. immigration officials were ready for Miriam and took her into custody, charging her with illegal entry into the U.S. She was held for 3 days. During these 3 days, she and Johnson pleaded her case. Miriam said, "I was just scared. I really didn't want to go back." With the stories heard about women in the Middle East, Miriam would probably be viewed as unclean in the Islamic community, and she could end up imprisoned or even killed. So, when she told the authorities that she was afraid of returning home, they granted her a temporary right to stay. As soon as her temporary stay was granted, Miriam met with Johnson's family. Despite her initial fear of not being accepted, the couple got married in a Las Vegas chapel on November 16, 1999. She then started life as a military housewife, living in base housing at Camp Pendleton in San Diego County. But things weren't all rosy for the new couple. They still had to fight for asylum for Miriam. Though now an American by marriage, she still faced deportation for illegal entry. So she decided seeking political asylum in the US, which was the best way to get her permanent stay. And she proceeded to ask the government to drop its charges of illegal entry. According to her lawyer, she does not believe that she can go back and be safe at this time. All the woman did is try to leave a country that does not allow her to live with the person she wants to live with. Miriam claimed she feared serious harm or death for marrying a non-Muslim American and fleeing Bahrain without permission. This couple made everyone aware of the ongoing threats from the royal family, and they revealed that the FBI had even intercepted a plot involving a Syrian who was paid $500,000 to assassinate Miriam. The media attention was now big and earned the couple an episode on the Oprah Winfrey Show. This was later turned into a made-for-television romantic drama film titled The Princess and the Marine. Miriam was eventually granted asylum in May 2001 since no one wanted the case to become a political asylum issue. With her green card from the U.S. immigration, Miriam was now undisputedly American. Johnson himself had been court-martialed for forging military papers. Luckily for him, the media attention his marriage had garnered caused his punishment to be reduced to demotion. He went from Lance Corporal to Private, the lowest rank in the Marine Corps. However, 2 months later, it was reported that Johnson had decided to leave the Marine Corps by his own choice. he received an administrative discharge because it was best for both him and the Marine Corps. With Johnson losing his job, things soon turned sour at home. Miriam, who had been used to a life of luxury, now had to deal with the lack of money. Not forgetting Miriam was just 19, and even though she was willing to deal with the change in status, she still wanted Johnson to get a job and a college degree. She had admitted that she was considering a divorce. Around this time, the horrible September 11 incident occurred. Miriam decided to go visit her family, saying they were worried about retaliation towards Middle Easterners after the terrible terrorist attacks. She later returned to Las Vegas at the end of the year. At this time, she probably rethought her desire for a divorce, as a divorce could cause her to lose her right to stay in the US. It was clearly stated under the INS rules that a green card issued to the spouse of a US citizen was provisional for 2 years. Now, if a divorce were to happen within 2 years, the spouse that got the green card had to prove that it ended because of abuse. After her return, things didn't get better in her marriage with Johnson. Despite making money off the TV movie, they both made the rounds of television talk shows and got some cash through that too. They had rented an apartment in Las Vegas and were living off the money from the movie. Johnson wasn't just sitting at home. He even got a job as a valet on the Las Vegas Strip, parking cars for wealthy patrons. But while Johnson was doing this, he said his wife was only interested in enjoying the Las Vegas nightlife. She only partied with her friends night after night and left her husband to deal with things by himself. On November 17, 2004, just one day after their 5th wedding anniversary, the couple filed for divorce, citing incompatibility in marriage. Clearly, this was Miriam's decision because somewhere along the line, Johnson had clearly stated, "I love my wife deeply." This was a surprise to us all. We had some general aches and pains in our marriage, but nothing bad, nothing like some of her friends. She never complained. She never said anything. Johnson appeared on an episode of Divorce Court without Miriam to plead his case. In fact, Miriam wasn't even represented by a lawyer during the divorce filing, and no one answered her apartment door when she was checked on. It was unclear whether she planned to stay in the US or not. Johnson, however, still loved his ex-wife. Deep down inside, she knows that I loved her more than anything in the world. I can say I enjoyed every minute I spent with her. Johnson lived in Las Vegas with his stepmother for a while. Then he picked himself up by using the money he saved from his failed marriage TV film to finance himself in college. And after some time, he met another woman with whom he decided to build a meaningful relationship. This worked out for him, and they got married in 2011, starting a whole new family. For Miriam, nothing was heard of her for a long time. But during an ambassadorial visit to the UK, she was announced as the wife of Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, a member of the Bahraini royal family. Presently, she resides in Bahrain, the country from which she initially fled. Even at home, she lives a relatively private life, spending time engaging in various philanthropic work and activism for women's rights. The unhappy ending to the fairy tale between Johnson and Miriam has led people to have mixed feelings about how things turn out between the two lovers. We believe it is a strong reminder for everyone to follow their hearts and live their dreams to the fullest potential. We would like to hear your opinion about the video in the comment section below. Thank you.